Okay, good evening, everybody. It is 7:01, and we are airing, so I will call our meeting to order. I will call the regular city council meeting to order, being held in person at the Richfield Municipal Center of August 10th, 2022. The first item for all of you who are able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is our open forum. So just to let people know, the open forum is an opportunity for community members to address the city council. They have up to 3 minutes. It's not a discussion, but just a time to share any information or comments you would like with us. In terms of participating, you can join in person by showing up at the council meeting, or you can join telephonically by dialing 1-415-655-0001, and then the webinar access code is 2459-911-4770, and the password is 123. You can also email Executive Assistant Kelly Wynn. I just want to make sure that's not an option on the council agenda. Is that still something people can do?
Yes, Mayor, they can email her ahead of the meeting is better because we can't get it to us right now.
Perfect. So you can also email Executive Assistant Kelly Wynn at kwynn@richfieldmn.gov or call her. Do you happen to remember the phone number for her office? Usually I have it, it's on the notes, but no, okay. So if you could please email her before she will read, we'll have the comments read before. So those are the ways to participate. Is anybody here in person for the open forum? Okay. Nobody's here for the open forum. And then is anybody on the line for the open forum?
Mayor and Council, I do not see anybody on the line for the open forum.
All right. Well, I think we'll wait for a little bit to see if anybody calls or if anyone shows up in person. Oh, is there one that staff is going to read? That we have one that was submitted? Thank you for that reminder.
Yes, Mayor, we got an email comment before the meeting. It's from Karen and Jonathan Lanthier. Hi there, I'd love to submit some thoughts on the proposed new fencing rules for corner lot. My husband, young son, and I love our Richfield home. We live at 6944 Portland Avenue, a corner lot on Portland and 70th. We know our neighbors and feel a part of a community that still has many of the benefits of an urban environment, bikeability, handy bus lines, strategic shopping, and residential planning. We've been very supportive of the work to add a bus rapid transit line in our front yard because we know it's good for our neighbors to get to work and for the environment by having fewer cars on the road. That said, our backyard is our oasis from a very public front yard space. The city's proposed fencing rules for corner lots would significantly cut back our available backyard space. Once we are able to add a fence in the future. In the proposed diagram of the setback, the example house is much closer to the street than a house like ours and others nearby. The reality of a setback like ours is that a new 6-foot fence would have to be nearly 20 feet from the street in order to be half the distance between our house and the property line, because we live on 2 very busy streets, Portland and 70th. Having a 6-foot fence to make the backyard a more peaceful, quiet space is of value to both of us and future homeowners. Also, because we're on a busy street, any lawn outside the fencing is less useful and less safe for us than other corner lots. An exceptions process to this new rule is really important. We also urge the City Council to consider removing the set requirement for 6-foot fences or modify it to minimize the impact on houses set further back from the street. For example, 4 feet mirroring the width of a sidewalk, or half the setback, whichever is left. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for that comment, City Manager Rodriguez. Do we have anyone else on the line? Management Analyst Swanson, is there anyone else on the line?
Mayor and council, I do not see anybody else on the line.
Thank you. Anyone here in person? Okay. Hi, Kim, Hooli. I didn't say hi to you earlier. Hi. Hi. All right. Looks like nobody's here in person for the open forum, so I'll close the open forum and move to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of July 26, 2022, and the special City Council work session of August 1st, 2022.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second?
Thank you. The motion has been made by Councilmember Supple to move the minutes and seconded by Councilmember Whalen. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes have been approved. The next item is the 2022 Jean and Mary Jacobson Citizen of the Year presentation to Risa Paul. And I will ask Risa to join me up at the microphone, and then I will also ask Human Rights Commission member and Representative Mara Glubka to join me as well. Thank you for joining me. So normally we do have Kim Jacobson here to present the award on behalf of his family. Unfortunately, he's not here. So I was going to ask you quick, Mara, did you want to share about the award, or should I share what I have here? Sure, absolutely. If you want to talk a little bit more about the award on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, that's great.
Sure, thank you. I'm here on behalf of Walter Burke, the current chair of the Human Rights Commission this year. I'm last year's commission, Mara Glubka, and I'm here to present the award for the Outstanding Citizen of 2022, Risa Paul. Every year we consider nominations for people who give of themselves and selflessly contribute of themselves to better their community or the lives of others. And we unanimously voted for you. One of my favorite quotes is by Winston Churchill, who says that you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. By what I've read about what you've done with young people and later in your life with older and vulnerable adults, I would say that you've made a good life for yourself. So congratulations, Risa, on behalf of the Human Rights Commission.
I will read the nomination here by neighbor and friend Kim Hooley, who nominated Risa for the award. So she wrote, I am nominating Risa Paul for the 2022 Jean and Mary Jacobson Outstanding Citizen Award in recognition of Risa's years of dedication and service to Richfield children and families as a home daycare provider for 30 plus years. During those years, Risa was often overworked and underpaid, particularly during COVID-19. Now, in her second career, Risa has taken a lead position with Havenwood Homes in Richfield, where she continues in her vocation of caring for aging and vulnerable adults. Her caring disposition and good nature are two of her many honorable traits that I admire. Risa exemplifies what it means to be a good neighbor. She is always informed about local government affairs, and she shares her vast knowledge while being one of the administrators of the Richfield Community Facebook page. Risa has the ability to tactfully decline posts that may offend our neighbors in the spirit of maintaining a positive environment. Risa has also been instrumental in keeping Richfield residents informed about community events and how they can become involved in the city meetings and activities. Communication within our city is vital, but during COVID-19, it was critical that our neighbors had a way to communicate with each other. Risa was a compass for people who sought community support during those difficult days. For these reasons and many more, I think she deserves to be recognized as an outstanding citizen. Submitted by Kim Hooley. So, Risa, is there anything you want to share or that Kim wants to share who nominated you?
I think appreciate it. It's what I love to do.
Anything you would like to share, Kim? Okay. Would you like to take a picture or with anybody, with your supporters? With
Kim's
both?
the
Okay. All right, we can take a picture.
oh.
Now, let's see here. I will give this to you, and I think this. The supporters who came to support Risa. And it's just a reminder, every year we do have an opportunity to recognize an outstanding citizen in our community of Richfield. So connecting with the Human Rights Commission and making sure that we are recognizing the stories of our leaders is such a big deal and really important. Any comments from council that people would like to share? Councilmember Supple.
Just wanted to add my congratulations and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Whalen.
I just wanted to say, you know better than most that conversations as a community, there's a lot of different perspectives. It's not always agreeing, but that having a moderator in those conversations to make sure that it's respectful, but also that it is informative, is really essential. And so it is messy work and complicated, but I appreciate that you and the other folks help with that. And as was stated, that was especially helpful through pandemic times when we weren't having as many in-person events.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Other comments? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations, Riza. I'm glad we were able to honor you and appreciate your presence over the years. And for folks that aren't, for everybody that doesn't know if they can ever be involved in the city, and just appreciate that you've both stood up as an advocate and then have been mindful, like others have said, of the need to keep order and create an opportunity for people to be heard but not be abused, and that's important.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman. All right, the next item is a receipt of the City of Richfield annual financial report for our fiscal year ended December 31st, 2022. I will invite our finance director up to the podium, and then you have someone with you to present, correct? Thank you.
Good evening, mayors and council members. Today we are presenting city's annual financial audit report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. Per the state regulations, local governments are required to publish audited financial statements within 6 months of the close of the fiscal year. While the finance department was going through staffing transition, the city had to secure outside professional help and hired Abdo Solutions to help with the audit. The city also secured an extension this year to extend the financial statement submission date to August 15, 2022. City's auditing firm, Bergen KDV, has completed the 2021 annual audit and issued an unmodified opinion. These financial statements have been submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association and will soon be published in the local newspaper. Today, we have Matt Mayer from Bergen KDV with us to present the 2021 audited financial statements, and I would like to invite Matt over to the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kamut. Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the invitation to present the results of the 2021 audit. I think Kamut summarized it very well, but I have just two goals tonight to share with you. We issued 4 different audit reports. I'd like to provide the results of those for you tonight, and then some very high-level financial perspective, some analysis, so you can have an understanding of how the 2021 fiscal year went for you financially and how that sets you up as you start to look ahead for the budget process. As Kamut mentioned, our first report was the report on the financial statements themselves. That was the 200-page document that you received in your materials this evening that had every detail regarding the city's finances for 2021. We issued an unmodified opinion, the best we can provide, and that means that you and anyone who has an interest in the city's finances can rely on that document as a true picture of the city's financial position and results of operation for 2020. Our second report is on internal control, and internal control is the way you do business as a city. It's safeguarding the city's assets. It's making sure that we have accurate financial reporting at the end of each year. We had one finding. It was a one-time issue surrounding some software conversions and trying to get some good numbers related to the arena there. We're confident that it was a one-time issue for 2021. We will follow up certainly in 2022 on that. But other than that, we had no findings regarding internal control. Very well established through here at the city through many years of documentation and policies and procedures, and then very well executed and taken seriously by your team here, which is great to see. Because the city receives significant amounts of federal dollars, we also are required to do a federal audit of compliance. This year we looked at the highway planning and construction grant that you received, as well as the Section 8 housing, and we have no issues or concerns regarding that. You'll get a complete report from us with the federal government regarding your compliance with your federal programs for 2021. And then the final report is one on Minnesota legal compliance. This is testing the city on various state statutes regarding how municipalities should run their finances, how you deposit and invest your dollars, making sure your contracting and bidding is according to statute, that there are no conflicts of interest, things like that, and no findings there for 2020. So again, our thanks to the finance team here, both employees of the city as well as the team at Abdu Solutions for their hard work in getting to these results. As Kamut mentioned, it was a significant year of transition for the finance team, and I think everybody's happy to have 2021 in the books, and you can move forward now with 2022 and the 2023 budget as you move forward. Just some quick analysis for you on a couple of the city funds. One of those is the general fund for the year, and this is the fund that most people think about when they think about the city of Richfield. It's the police department, the streets department, the folks here at City Hall that make things work. And it's also the fund that you as a council have the most input on through the budget process. Each year, by the end of the year, you put together a budget that you approve along with a levy to pay for that budget. And for 2021, it was a balanced budget. You intended that your fund balance would not go up or down if it was executed perfectly, that your financial position would remain the same in the general fund from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. That's the column. You can see that there was actually a surplus this year of a little over $500,000. Revenue came in better by about $650,000, and expenditures were actually under budget by about $360,000. Property tax revenue and licenses and permits outpaced the budget estimates, and each of the department heads did a very good job staying within the confines or the parameters that you established through your budget to ensure that their spending stayed within them during the year. As a result, and under budget pretty much across the board in the general fund. As a result, that $500,000 surplus fell to the bottom line, and that improved the general fund financial position, and you ended the year with a fund balance of about $10.5 million. Now, that fund balance should be looked at as a percentage of your budget or a percentage of spending. As a council, you have a policy of 40% of a year's worth of spending to be in fund balance at the end of the year. And that is your metric to decide whether you're financially healthy or within the parameters that you've established for yourself. At $10.5 million fund balance at the end of 2021 was exactly at 40%. So you're right where you want it to be, and that sets you up very well for the 2022 operations as you plan for the 2020. A couple of other funds I want to look at with you. One is the liquor store fund. That is a very important fund at the city. When run profitably, that brings resources into the city to help offset property taxes levies and also help fund other projects. You can see sales have really taken off over the course of the last couple of years. Couple of reasons for that. There was some maintenance, there was some capital work done at several of the stores over the last couple of years that's kind of settled down now. And with stores being fully open, and along with, to be honest with you, the pandemic, sales were up during that time as well, but you can see a very solid year for 2021. And the store profitability actually posted about $1 million of operating income. That was the first time, I think, achieving that $1 million mark here in 2021. That compares to about $900,000 back in 2020. So moving forward on that, mostly because of the increased sales. We also look at things like margins, the markup on your product, and also try and compare you to other stores around the area and also statewide averages. Those details are in the materials I provided, but just highlights on that, you are comparing favorably both to the statewide averages and your peer group around here, with maybe a slightly below market markup on your product. You are about 25%. A typical store in the area here is about 27 or 28%. But that takes nothing away from the very good results the store had. Two other funds to take a quick look at, the Water and Sewer Utility Fund. This fund does not receive property tax dollars. It is run basically on the user fees that you charge for the service that are provided. So we want to make sure that those user fees are adequate to cover those costs. And you can see the purple and the gray bars there are both showing operating income each of the last 5 years, both with depreciation or capital factored in and factored out. So we have no concerns about those funds, and they're performing as expected according to your rate structure, covering the costs and setting dollars aside for future needs in those funds. Similar story in the Storm Sewer Fund, a small operating loss this year when depreciation is factored in, but this fund is also positive when depreciation is factored out. That means that we're cash flowing operations and actually setting dollars aside in real cash for future capital needs in the fund. So I think both of them are performing as well. I don't have either your utilities. To wrap things up, we've got a couple of comparison charts here. We're often asked, how does my city compare to other cities? Are we doing what we should be doing? Are we asking too much of our citizens? Are we spending the right amount? And one way to look at that is on a per capita basis. And the state auditor issues this report annually that gives you some perspective on what a typical city is asking from its citizens from a revenue standpoint. And the answer for 2020 in that is about $1,100 per citizen. And if you compare that to Richfield, you are right around that mark, just $40 higher than that at about $1,200. And you go line item by line item there, very much in line with the state averages in your peer group, that peer group being cities between 20,000 and 100,000. Your property tax levy is maybe about $30 or $40 higher per capita than the state average. But your special assessment revenue is near zero, and that's not a tool you use frequently here. A lot of other cities use that fairly liberally, and as a result, there's a need to make up that difference, and there's a small difference between property tax and special assessments. But all the other line items are pretty much right in line with your peer group there, and I would say Ridgefield's right in the mix, and you're right on average when it comes to the revenue stream coming from your citizens. We can also look at spending. And actually, spending is actually below the averages. A typical city your size spends about $1,000 per capita, and in 2020, that number was $960 per citizen. So again, efficient use of the funds here at the city, and again, spending about $40 less per capita when it comes to your current costs, what it takes to run the city, as well as the capital needs. We also have a debt service amount on there. And then you're also very much in line on the debt service, what it takes to service your debt, the principal and interest, right in line with state averages there, about $3 or $4 higher per capita, but very close. So I hope that gives you some perspective. Again, my goal tonight was to give you the results of our audit with the 4 reports. a little high-level financial analysis on your general fund and your enterprise funds, and then to give you some perspective when you compare yourself to others. But if not, I'd be happy to stay for any questions. But with that, thank you, Mayor, for acceptance of the audit if you submit.
Thank you. Any questions before we accept or comments from folks? Councilmember Supple.
I did want to say thank you to Finance Manager Verma and all the staff that worked on this. And I do think it's interesting that the audit worked the way it was supposed to. We did find a concern with the internal controls with the finding, and that'll actually help us moving forward as we do a lot more software turnovers. So catching it the first time it happened probably prevented a lot of problems for the future. So the system worked. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the report. And I just wanted to highlight something that you mentioned that, and I just want to make sure I understand that we, on average, have about $40 more a year on property taxes, but we have almost no special assessments. And so for folks that are listening at home, that means we have new roads going in on 65th Street. And a lot of cities would charge the residents and the small businesses tens of thousands of dollars per small business or home for the privilege of having that road. And we take on that debt as a city, and then we distribute that throughout our city. It's and there's some limitations to that. Then we carry that debt instead of our citizens, so that minimizes some of our borrowing power, but I think it's a great use of our resources to not burden individual citizens and small businesses. But I think that's something that's easy to miss, so I just wanted to lift it up, and thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you. I wanted to, thank you for all of the information. Thank you, staff in many variations who have worked on our finances through this time of transition. That it's great. We can pat ourselves on the back as much as we want, but it's great to have an independent expert opinion to say that that we made it through the transition with a very healthy financial outlook still. And so just want to appreciate that. And I think one of the financial awards we're now like 30 some years consecutively in receiving. And so just really appreciate the ongoing finance work at the city to make sure that we are both accurate and also financially healthy.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. I know folks have said this already, but I just also want to thank our staff and our department heads and our finance director and our finance team for their exceptional work. It's been a couple years of Herculean efforts in so many different ways, but really also including with our finances, given all the volatility and unprecedented times that we faced as a city, financially, in terms of the losses of financial income that we had, the impact that the shutdowns had in our community, on top of, changes, unprecedented changes in the Great Resignation and people changing jobs and leaving and the experience that every organization has had, on top of local governments receiving federal funding in response to the COVID pandemic and all of the work that came to do that, doing all of these things at the same time and doing so well, and getting our community through a crisis that lasted for years. And I remember being on the front end of this and talking about what type of decisions we all had to make together, and just remembering, thinking that the decisions we make today are going to determine what the bounce back and the resiliency of our city is on the other end. And this is in some ways a little bit of a report of what that looks like. And I'm so thankful, and I'm just thankful to our staff for the leadership, because that was on another level of challenge, and our staff did it so well. And in the report tonight, you can see that paid off, and our community is in such a better place because of it. And that was very difficult work. So I want to thank our staff for that. This is a really big deal. So thank you. Other comments? All right. Well, it looks like I do need a motion to accept the financial report.
And so move.
Second?
The motion has been made and seconded to accept the annual financial report of the city for the year ending in December 31st, 2021. Any comments or questions additionally? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have accepted the financial report. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. The next item is the approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to move to approve the agenda. Any comments? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The agenda has been approved. The next item is a consent calendar with City Manager Katie Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. Item A, first reading of an ordinance amending Section 300 and Section 1220 of the City Code of Ordinance relating to the abolishment of the Liquor Department and Liquor Operations Director position within the city organization. And if you'll indulge me in an editorial comment, I just want to clarify, we are not closing liquor stores. We are just making, instead of it being a Liquor Operations Department, it would be a division underneath Administrative Services. Item B, first reading of a proposed ordinance amending, updating the city's zoning code subsection that regulates fences, walls, and hedges. Item C, consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the city of Richfield to accept grant funds in the amount of $10,000 and enter into a source water protection grant agreement, SWIFT or SWIFT contract number 214643 with Minnesota Department of Health to upgrade security system infrastructure at the water treatment plant and well houses. Consider the approval of a resolution appointing Assistant City Manager Sak Tongban as the city's director representative on the Local Government Information Systems, or LOGIS Board of Directors. Item E, consider the adoption of a resolution supporting a Livable Communities Act transit-oriented development grant application to the Metropolitan Council for the proposed Veterans Village development by the American Legion Post 435 at 6501 Portland Avenue. Item F, consider authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute a cost share reimbursement agreement with Partnership Academy for installation of a water utility service line in advance of the city's 65th Street reconstruction project due to expansion of the Partnership Academy campus. And finally, item G, approval of a resolution amending the allocation of the 2021 general fund budget. And I submit these items for your consideration as part of the consent.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt the items in the consent calendar.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Any comments from folks? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
So I just wanted to talk briefly about the fence issue, particularly because we received the open forum comment, and I'd also met with those residents just to kind of highlight what the concern is that I know we'll be discussing in more detail at our next meeting. So I just wanted to refer council members, page 185, your PDF has this graphic that I think is quite helpful to look at. So I just want to clarify. First off, I want to apologize because I told the residents this, I misunderstood the exact detail of what was being required in the future, and I misstated that to the residents. So I told them their fence had to be slightly farther back than it actually does, but they are correct that it had to be 18 feet back from the curb as proposed if they want to do a 6-foot fence. But just in general, if you look at this graphic and compare, right now we use the same rule for interior lots and corner lots. So basically in this graphic, as much as red for the corner lot as for the interior lot. Going forward, they would completely lose the ability to have their side yard enclosed by a 6-foot fence. And in the backyard, they need to do half of what I learned was the minimum setback, not the actual setback of the building. So that means if they want a 6-foot fence, even behind their house, it has to be at least 6 feet back from the right of way in the small part of the city, it'd be 7.5 feet. So I'm like a little bit concerned about this. The staff explanation that I heard in the planning commission, which makes a lot of sense. We don't want a tunnel effect of our east-west streets where we've got these walls of 6-foot fences. But I am sympathetic to situations that aren't that uncommon, like we heard in the letter of somebody who lives on a busy street. Their front yard is not really a private space. Their backyard is kind of what they've got, and we're kind of chipping away at that. So I'll come with more detail at our next meeting, but my thought is a possible fair compromise would be to leave the side yard requirement as staff has proposed it, but just require across the board a 3-foot setback for all fences from the right-of-way. Currently, that would be less than the 6-foot distance. It would also apply to front yard fences, and then it would treat everybody equally, whereas right now, you only have to do that 3-foot setback if there's a sidewalk present. So I'm just proposing across the board a 3-foot setback for all fences, allowing more of the backyard to be that 6-foot fence. So I don't know if there's any thoughts or reactions to this at that point. At this point.
Councilmember Supple?
I was wanting to clarify as well. Normally, you respond to open forum and give information during the city manager's report. Will we get the information and the feedback before we vote on it? Because that vote would be coming up before the city manager's report. And I do think the case of like having like the rapid transit bus stop right there is an exception that I want to find out if that's going to apply here or not. Thank you.
Yes, good suggestion, Councilmember Supple, and I will ask Director Paleman to respond to the open forum comment when you consider this item at the next meeting.
Great. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Troutman?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And just a question that I'd have for staff is, is there anything we could do to allow for variances in particular situations that, it's great. It's a good principle to treat like things in a like manner, but if something's different, to be able to call that out. And if there was a way that potentially we could define ahead of time what a practical difficulty might be, and that losing the benefit of a large part of your yard would be it could be one way or another, but if we could collectively say, well, we would recognize these as practical, something like that. I wouldn't presume to dictate any kind of solution, but it just seems like a reasonable concern that the residents have.
Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you. This is one that I'm not expecting like renderings. I know that's kind of intense, but I would benefit greatly from a few more examples of like, here's an actual house, here's what they would be allowed to do or not, or I don't even like screenshots from Google Maps or something, but like of here's what we're trying to avoid. I guess we talked in previous meetings for other codes of like not wanting to be overly restrictive, and I can't quite tell if this is overly restrictive or if it's addressing like a real concern.
Other comments? Councilmember Hayford-O'Leary?
I did just want to say, just to note that there is this exception process that's written in, so it would potentially be a little bit easier. But I guess my point for corner lots, the case that we heard about tonight from the resident is exceptional. I think the same basic issue of losing a lot of your yard kind of exists on any corner lot other than exceptionally large lots. So I would prefer a rule that's just clearer in the actual rule, or the balances it better. I don't know if staff may provide those examples, and I think that'd be helpful, but Councilmember Whalen, I would say like 76th Street east of 35 provides an example of what my opinion would be kind of that tunnel effect, of where there's just a consistent row of 6-foot fences quite close to the sidewalks. That is maybe, I agree with staff's opinion that maybe that's too far or too unaesthetic to the street and harms the public realm.
Other comments? Okay, I think that is a good. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Whalen.
Sorry, I was stuck on fences. I did have comments on other pieces. One, I just really appreciated the editorial comment and want to reiterate for anyone who is just looking at the agenda, didn't read the staff report, we are not abolishing our liquor department, our liquor stores. It's simply a reorganization, but they serve serve a good purpose and fund a lot of great things in our recreation services, and so that will continue. The other thing is just wanted to express my excitement as the American Legion continues to move forward on their proposal for veterans housing above a continued use for the Legion post itself. I know there's several things still in the air on that process, but excited to support this application for some more funding for that, and I do hope that we can continue to partner and move that forward.
Thank you. I'll just echo that. I'm very excited about the Veterans Village, and I'm so happy we are able to submit some resolution of support for that project. Very excited for that. I think we did have a motion and a second for consent. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The consent calendar is approved. The next item is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank council for supporting all of the great community events and also staff for organizing them, especially the police department, the fire department, and recreation. We had a really busy week last week. Started on the weekend with the Urban Wildlands race, and then great Night to Unite, and then also Unity in the community last Friday. And it was a lot of staff that participate, but also it was just really good to connect with residents. It's been a long time, and I've been missing those connections. So really appreciate for all those parties that we visited and people welcoming us, and enjoyed the conversation. So.
Absolutely. Any other comments from council on that? Okay, the next item is claims and payroll.
I'll move claims and payroll.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Claims and payroll has been passed. Next item is hats off to Hometown Hits. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. I did just want to thank all our public safety and fire department workers and every neighbor that took time to be with their neighbors. Part of what makes Richfield great is that we spend time together in a really organic way with our neighbors. So it's one of the highlights of my year. And my kids are getting older, and I try not to force them to city events. And so it was hot, and I asked them. I said, "Do you want to come?" And my oldest just said, "This is one of the best parts about being in Richfield. Of course I want to come." And I just thought that's how I felt. But I was glad the next generation of Richfielders feel that way too. So for everybody that participated, thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I just wanted to mention this nice bike tour that we did last week, the Transportation Commission, where I'm liaison to that. Had a bike tour of generally sort of east and central Richfield, starting from City Hall. We got to see several spots, both where changes are happening, like the 77th Street underpass, some spots that continue to be a challenge, like 73rd Street, 35W pedestrian overpass. And it was just a really nice experience to get people out of City Hall and have this kind of mobile work session to kind of look at these issues and experience riding through these things firsthand. So specifically wanted to thank Jan Matthews, who came up with the route, Will Wislow, and the school district that lent bikes to some of the commission members who did not have bikes. And then Joe, Ben, and Olivia from Public Works, who were the staff on the ride. So it surprisingly takes a lot of effort to do like a 7-mile loop and get that all working, but it was really helpful. So I think the commission enjoyed it.
Awesome. I saw you go in front of my house, and I was like, I know so many of those people. Why?
I know.
What are they doing?
Yeah, I pointed you out to Jan, and I'm like, do I want to like draw the whole attention that that's the mayor's house? I don't know.
I know.
She
And I
needs
was like,
privacy.
what are they? Is that Husnia? What's going on? And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, anyways, Councilmember Supple.
Thank you. I wanted to also talk about, thank you everybody for the unity in the community. It was a effort that went on for more than just one night. There were people that gathered to put school supplies in backpacks from a number of churches and local organizations. So there were nonprofits, there were volunteers, there were staff members. So everybody was coming together to make that event work, and it was just fun that night to see how it all turned out. And even there was another event right next door that same night with, I think it was tacos and margarita 5K or something, but it was just like a hub of activity, and it was just a lot of fun. So that was a great time. So thank you to everybody that was involved in that. And then also, I just wanted to highlight, there was a notice that was on the website about what do you do like if there's storm damage to your boulevard tree or your street light burns out. And if you go on the city website to the Public Works Department, there's a place to report those like non-emergency things that need to be fixed. So I just wanted to throw some additional light on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Whalen.
Want to echo the great comments about Night to Unite, and both in the conversations I had then, as well as several residents recently reaching out to me with feedback on the strategic plan, the decisions around our budget and the ARPA funding. Just want to thank the folks who have reached out, encourage anyone who's listening. Truly, our jobs are easier when we hear from more residents, so please continue to give us feedback. And then want to give a big thank you to everyone who was involved in the primary election yesterday. That's why we're meeting on a Wednesday. And glad to see that City Clerk Sinning is not here. Hopefully she had a less intense day today. But I know there were a bunch of election judges who had 12 or 14-hour days, a bunch of people, just everyday folks who made it a point to go vote, even though many people still had a normal work day and their normal commitments. So just want to thank folks for both facilitating and participating in our democratic process.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. I'll just say it has been amazing to do all these awesome community events the past few weeks. A huge thank you to our staff, as City Manager Katie Rodriguez shared. A huge thank you to our volunteers, our community members. I was, in addition to those events that everyone mentioned, yesterday I got to go to Augsburg Park and say thank you to our WIC peer breastfeeding counselors and the moms and families that work with our peer breastfeeding counselors. We have some of the highest rates in Richfield and in Bloomington in the nation of breastfeeding of our babies. It was International Breastfeeding Day, and it was the first time in 2 years that they had that celebration, and it was just a time to thank the moms, thank the families. That is an above and beyond way to take care of your family when sometimes you're working multiple jobs, your employer doesn't have a place where you can, pump and be able to do that for your kids, and just to see how many people are doing that. So the message and the moral of the story is our community members are amazing leaders. They love Richfield. They care about Richfield. Our staff cares about Richfield. I've just had so many great events. This is why we all do what we do on the city council, is people coming together to make their community a better place. And I've just had the pleasure of going to so many events recently, and 90% or more of what people say to me. And I'm so happy to hear this, because sometimes when you're just focused on the meetings or not getting out in the community, and COVID has kept us apart, you think about the struggles and the difficulty we've gone through, but people just acknowledging the amazing work that we've all done together, acknowledging the great work of the city, of the council, of the community, coming together to take care of each other. The majority, most all people I talk to love Richfield. They love how things are going. They're really happy. They're engaged. They're involved. And that is why we do what we do. And so I just feel super energized by the past several events of community members coming together from all backgrounds, whether it's the revitalization of the American Legion or neighborhoods or moms taking care of their kids or new groups popping up. It's been awesome. So I just thank our staff, because that's above and beyond. And I still don't think that our community understands how much above and beyond our staff is constantly doing. And I think sometimes people think, oh, that's a city event. The 4th of July is a city event and the city runs this. it's really community stuff, and because our city staff is a part of the community, they go above and beyond to do it, but it's something that we should not take for granted. I'm very happy to be a part of it. So just a lot of great feelings from that. But that's it. I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.